We send birthday cards to all of our past clients. I probably send 20 birthday cards a week, every week. It's nonstop.
Like hand-signed?
Handwritten. We go through a lot of birthday cards. Wedding anniversaries, home anniversaries where we do a little market analysis for it.
Do you email that or mail it?
Mail it.
Mail
so there's
a
a lot
market
of
analysis on the phone?
Here's what we're seeing in the market right now. If you want more information, let us know.
That's kind of cool. So do a lot of people call back? My guest here today on the Andy Burton Show is Steve Smillie with Edina Realty here in Woodbury.
Yep.
Right, Minnesota. I think we might have met maybe like 10 years ago. I feel like it's been a long time we don't know each other super well, but you've been a player in the marketplace a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been at it for a while.
Yes. I've always respected that you have a small team and you always produce at a high level, which is super, super cool. Like to be able to see sometimes you get like all these teams where they got to like list like 15 people to make it look like, wow, look at how great we are.
Yep.
Where it's a very small team, right? So are you from here?
Yes. Yep. Grew up in Afton.
You grew up in Afton?
So, moved around a lot growing up. Was born in Ohio, moved to California, then to the other side of the Twin Cities, then Dallas, Texas, and then Afton. But that was all before I started 6th grade.
So what profession were your parents in that you were all over the place?
My dad worked for 3M.
Okay.
So that was all of those moves were based on 3M.
Oh.
And that's where my mom became a realtor after we moved to Afton, and she thought, I've done this a lot. I like this. I could do this.
Cool. Oh, just from moving so many times,
Yep.
she felt like she could help other people.
Right.
Oh, that's cool.
So she started her career, probably 20 years before I became a realtor.
Really? So you
Yep.
got family of real estate. So your mom
It's a
was a
legacy
realtor
act.
for 20 years?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
20 before me, and then she went for another 10, 15 years.
Oh, wow.
after that,
So she was
yeah.
like a 35-year realtor?
Yep,
Is she
yep.
still a realtor?
Nope, she's retired now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I did not know that was your transition.
Yep. So I was working at Target headquarters, had been through a couple reorganization changes, and after the last one, I thought, I think I'm done with this. And never occurred to me, even though growing up with a realtor in the house, never occurred to me to be a realtor. But I thought maybe this is a good change. So took my classes on the weekend while I was still at Target headquarters, and then left Target and started real estate the next day.
That's cool. So, do you have a college degree?
Yep.
Okay.
St. Thomas entrepreneurship and marketing degrees. So,
that's
work-
perfect.
Yeah,
Like
they work out
perfect
well.
background for real estate for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I showed up day one with my license and said, okay, Mom, let's get to work. And my mom said, what are you talking about? I've built my business. You need to build your own business. So go to work. And she was there to support and educate and help. And by that point, my dad had joined her as well. He left 3M and was with her for about 5 years before I started. But she said, you've got to create your own business. And thank God she did, because I then did exactly that.
Yeah. So I got a question for you. It was pure curiosity,
Yeah.
Andy curiosity, because I grew up in the same house. My parents lived in the same place my whole life, right? Like 20 some years until I was an adult. So you moved like 6 times before 6th grade?
Yeah.
What was that like?
It didn't seem like a big deal. I don't remember it being a negative, but being the new kid, isn't a ton of fun. So I don't know, I might have been a bit more of a goofball to get attention or whatever, as I was going to new schools. But it was all so early on, I can't imagine doing that in junior high or high school. That seems traumatic. But when it was all elementary school, it seemed okay.
Yeah. Well, I guess you learn how to get to know other people really quick.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would like to think you did then.
Yeah, it helps. And I met my now wife in 6th grade when we moved here and started going to school at Afton Lakeland Elementary. So
Very cool.
we didn't start dating then, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and you live in Afton now.
Yep.
Do your kids also go to the same school that you went to?
Yeah. So when they started, I said, look around. You never know. your future partner could be here.
Yeah.
But no, we lived in St. Paul for 15 years after both my wife and I graduated, and loved living there. And then as the kids were getting to school age and we were thinking about our next move and where we want to be, and knowing that my mom and dad were transitioning out of the business, being back in Afton seemed like a good idea. So we moved back.
You didn't happen to buy your family home, did you?
No, it was an option, but it really wasn't up for consideration.
Okay.
It felt weird. Great house, great neighborhood, love it, but no, seemed weird.
Cool. So how long have you been in the business now?
22 years.
22 years.
Yep.
So give me an idea. What does your team look like?
Well, so it was just me for the first 10, 12 years. But those last 2-3 years, I was really struggling with the volume that I was doing by myself. It was just too much. And coincidentally, had a friend who I knew through the music scene, and we were at a concert together, and having a couple beers. And he was in a band that was traveling the world, but he was really getting burnt out on it. And I was saying, man, I need help. And he said, man, I need a new job. And
traveling the world?
Yeah.
This is kind of like, we can't just roll past that real quick. Wow.
Well, yeah. But he was about to do a tour in the middle of winter of Western Canada, and he was not excited about that. So he said, I need something different. And so
no place more exciting than Western Canada in the middle of winter.
Yeah.
Right.
So he said, are you serious? I said, yeah, I'm serious. And, we both went home, woke up a little fuzzy the next morning, and he sent me a text saying, I hope you're serious, because I just signed up for my real estate classes. And that was Matt, who's been with me now for 12 years or so. Mm-hmm. And, through dumb luck, it really worked out great. He's been awesome, and it's just allowed me to do more. He's created a great career for himself, so it's been great. So
has the whole time just been you two?
Yes, although we've just recently, a week ago, hired a third person to help out. So she's she'll be a realtor and just doing everything that we do. So we made it a point not to, from hearing from other consumers saying, oh, I hired this big time realtor and I never saw him. I just got passed off to their buyer's agent or whatever, and being kind of disappointed by that experience, we thought we can't do that. I do my business. Matt's available to help me out when I'm showing a house on the other side of town, that sort of thing. But when somebody hires me, they get me 99% of the time. We go to closings and some people never see Matt, know Matt exists, but he is there to support me and me support him when he needs it. And so
give me an idea of Matt for, the agents that are watching this, that are looking at, they're getting to that tipping point because, your own success sometimes can drown you, right? Like when you get so busy that all of a sudden you actually stop following through with the promises that you give people because you're so good at what you do. Right. Like there's that tipping point.
Yep. I felt like I was definitely damaging my business because I wasn't able to keep up with the
so
workload.
Matt, is he support and realtor? How does that look in your world?
Yeah, so he's his own realtor, but he definitely helps me out with a lot of office stuff, and he's not as busy as I am as a realtor, so there'll be times where I'll be driving, I'll say, hey, can you populate a purchase agreement for me so when I get back to the office I can sit down and go through it with my clients and that sort of thing. So he does a lot of support stuff, but he's also, has his own business and contributes that way as well.
Yeah, well, and you can have a life then, right? So you can
go
on
or
a
I can just work more.
Yeah. So I'm meaning like the real estate can be a trap for agents.
Yeah.
It's like they feel like they can never go on vacation.
Right.
Or they can never take time off. Right.
Well, and it's tough to have
hard.
those other agents in the office. You say, can you show houses? And you can get burned, because it's a competitive business, and having somebody that you fully trust, which when my parents were realtors, if I went out of town, they'd cover my business. If they went out to town, I'd cover their business. But we'd also travel together, and that was a tricky.
Yeah, that's where it
The
gets
tricky
a little
part.
interesting, right?
Right.
So tell me about, so as you've been in the business now a long time, so you learned a lot. You got to see multiple market cycles now, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
mini ones.
Yep.
And now a couple really big ones. Like, was there like a fork in the road moment for you in your real estate career where you saw that you wanted to change things, or motivating thing, behind that?
No, I don't think so. I think it's been a pretty steady, consistent increase. I mean, we had the COVID years that were crazy, and we were, working a ton. But for the most part, every year was slightly better than the previous year. And so things there, I don't feel like there were drastic changes. The drastic change was hiring Matt, and getting him up to speed and working, and that changed things. But besides that, it's just been, kind of a gentle shift. We haven't felt major. Of course, there's changes in the industry, there's changes in the markets, that sort of thing, that we kind of roll with those punches. But I don't feel like there was a fork in the road type moment for us.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, I feel like that's you. Like, for getting to know you, you're this methodical person that is very consistent. Like, do you show up and start at the same time every day? Are you that kind, like,
Yeah.
you going to the office or being at home and like, my start time is exactly this time?
Not exactly, but yes, much more so than most realtors, I would guess.
Yeah.
I'm in the office every day,
Okay.
and that's something I learned from my folks. Show up, be there. There's always stuff to do. There's always work that you could be doing. There's always people you could be reaching out to, and by being at the office, it forces you to do that stuff.
It does. Like, I think I've met a lot of realtors that feel like, oh, I can kind of be like this cowboy, cowgirl in the industry and kind of do whatever I want. It's so great. I have all this time,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
but it's like you gotta be regimented.
Yeah, it's a career, so treat it like one.
Yeah, show up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I show up at work within 10 minutes. The same time.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, every day. Like, it's like, you don't have to, but
Right.
it's like clockwork for me.
Yeah.
I just know that it's my time to go start.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's really, really important. So when you were growing up, were you a troublemaker or a rule follower?
I'd probably say more of a troublemaker. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't expecting that. Like, it's,
Yeah, I definitely got into some trouble. There was my folks were worried.
yeah.
There's no arrests, but there should have been maybe.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah. Me as well. Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like I had a hard time following the rules.
Right. Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, but yeah, once I could make kind of like my own world of rules where I fit in well, it was just fine.
Well, that was it, right? Finding, and I think that's where this career has gelled with me. Probably realizing late in life that I probably had ADD, and that kind of scatterbrained thinking isn't good in school, and it's not good in a corporate setting. But boy, we flourish in real estate. You look around those offices, and there's a lot of people.
Us ADDers
Right, chasing squirrels,
like,
and
yeah.
But it works.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, but at the same time, what I see you is like from the outside is a very stable, consistent, professional person, right? That you probably had to kind of beat into yourself. Like,
Yeah.
is there anything you do for that type of person, which I think is actually a lot of salespeople? Like, what do you do to be consistent? Like, is there certain things that you do to help, like, kind of tone yourself down and focus and be in the moment?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, I think I have notes, lists, checklists, and I'm keeping myself on task that way. I'm definitely a to-do list kind of person, and that probably contributes most to it, and the accomplishment of checking those things off. Things I don't want to do, things I do want to do, and keeping myself to a schedule certainly helps.
Mm-hmm. Do you do that for prospecting too, or is that for like processing the transaction, the checklist?
It's for everything I do.
It is?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
But we just have established things that we do consistently. We send birthday cards to all of our past clients. I probably send 20 birthday cards a week, every week. It's nonstop.
Like hand signed?
Handwritten.
You put anything in it? Like a little scratch off or anything? Or
No,
just a card?
just a birthday card with a greeting, but handwritten. So I mean, we go through a lot of birthday cards, wedding anniversaries, home anniversaries, where we do a little market analysis for it.
You email that or mail it?
Mail it.
You
Yeah.
mail
So
a
there's
market analysis on the home?
just a snapshot, kind of. Here's what we're seeing in the market right now. If you want more information, let us know. But it's
Like about their house?
Yep.
Really? Oh, that's kind of cool. So do a lot of people call back for that?
Yeah, we get responses. Whether it's hey, this is good that this showed up. We are thinking about selling.
Phone call and a text too, or anything like that?
I do a text follow up just with a happy home anniversary message as well.
Is this like automated, or you personally?
It is not automated.
Okay.
I know you're very good at automating things.
So,
You're a
yeah.
pro at that. I could certainly learn, but no, it's mostly it's just a cut and paste message that's specific to them. But
And then you change it.
Yep.
Right, like the template.
Yep.
Okay, that's smart, because I think the consistency is so important.
well,
Yeah.
if I wasn't consistent, it would just pile up and it would go away, and I'd fall behind. And that was one of the things that Matt really helped me to stay on top of that sort of stuff. So
Okay. So for your clients right now, like, what does your business look like here? Obviously, it's been a very challenging couple of years,
Yeah.
right? Like we've had 40% decrease in sales. Like if you looked at your business and kind of the pillars of where your business is coming from, where is it? Where like coming from right now?
it has been for the last 10, 15 years. It has consistently been past clients and referrals from past clients. So I'm very rarely just meeting somebody that has no kind of warm connection from the start.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you do open houses?
No.
No open houses?
Well,
Okay.
I have recently.
Have you? Yeah, great opportunity for open houses
Yeah,
right now.
yeah. But I actually, I tell my sellers that, that I don't think open houses sell houses, and that I don't think it's the best use of my time. I don't think it's the best use of their time vacating the house to let people in who may or may not be qualified to buy a house. Now, am I missing out on picking up potential buyers and sellers? Sure, but historically, that's not where my business has come from, so I don't spend my time doing it.
So it's just catering to the people you already know.
Staying in touch with them.
Okay.
Yep.
So for when you started that, like if you backtrack 10, 15 years ago, right? And we have someone newer that's kind of growing their business right now.
Yep.
Because we've had a lot of new agents in the last 5 years coming to the business.
Yeah.
And I think some of those ones that are going to get gritty right now and learn how to do it, they're going to end up being some of the best.
Absolutely.
Because it's like some of the best agents are actually the agents that made it through the '08 crash, right? And just learned how to really be relational.
Absolutely.
Because it was kind of like wham bam, thank you, man, for a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah.
It was very transactional, for a while there. And
Well, that's what I'm worried about. I mean, my business was a lot of first-time home buyers for many, many years, and the amount of time that you spend in the trenches with them, driving around, looking at all these houses, writing offers, losing places, being, really tied to them for quite a while, you form great connections, and they really, in a tough buyer's market, they go, oh, thank God I had you. We couldn't have done this without you. Mm-hmm. Then we got into the market where it was very competitive, but things happen so fast, like you say, and we were driving separate because of COVID, or we're only looking at 2 or 3 houses because they're seeing the 5 that got away before they even took a look at them. I'm worried about those, not having that connection with those buyers. So all the more important to stay in touch with them, do what we do. We send just listed, just sold postcards. We always send them to the sphere around the neighborhood of where that person lives. But then I get an additional 50 printed, and I just go through my mailing list. I print out, all of my contacts, and just as if there's a listing that I just sold in their general area, their label gets pulled off, put on that, and sent out to them. So I'm probably reaching out to everyone in my database, I don't know, 6-7 times a year. So,
Okay. So are you including emails in that, in your 6-7 times a year?
No, I don't do a lot of just, the bulk email, holidays, that kind of stuff. I don't do it. I know internally we just got a new system, and people are thrilled about it. But there's so much noise on our phones right now between text messages, calls, everything. It's like, I don't want to add to that noise. You know, I think if I give them something of substance, that's great, but or something that's different, like a birthday card, you know.
Do you do any events at all?
I do.
past client events?
Yes, I was planning to do a movie event on December 7th, but the movie theater I was going to use was booked out.
Are you being serious?
Yes.
Yeah, by us?
Yeah, you beat me to the punch.
Oh, funny.
We were a little late getting onto
Yeah,
it. but
we had to book that like 6 months in advance here in Woodbury.
yeah,
Yeah.
you did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but we were thinking about this.
Sorry about that.
That's right. That's right. It's good. I might go.
Yeah.
We just, there's so much in the fall that we were thinking about doing a summer movie event, and we just never got around to it this summer. My wife and I organize a Thanksgiving Day turkey trot down from downtown Afton into Lakeland and back. It's more of a community event, but it's a lot of past clients, a lot of neighbors, a lot of friends. It's good time to just get out and do something active with a bunch of people.
Where's most of your clients? Is there like do you have it? Or you're like, I do 50% East Metro kind of thing?
It's all over. Well, because of working at Target headquarters, and that was the majority of my business when I started, and I probably still do 3 or 4 Target-related transactions every year just because of those connections from back in the day. But it's really Minneapolis, St. Paul neighborhoods, and then surrounding suburbs. And now, since I've been out in Afton for 10 years, there's been a lot more in the St. Croix Valley and some western Wisconsin too.
Okay. Yeah, and
So
St.
everywhere.
Croix Valley's grown so much too.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Like especially like home prices, how much it's changed.
Right.
Or just this area has changed.
Yeah.
Between Woodbury and Lake Elmo, this has to be the fastest growing area in the state. Like Lake Elmo, probably specifically
I would
of
think
what
so.
it used to be
Right.
and what it is now.
Absolutely.
It went from almost like rural community to
Yeah.
it's going to be a city at
Right.
some point here.
Yeah.
Like there's so many homes.
It's a lot. Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So right now, we're fall entering winter 2024 here, right?
Right.
And the market is changing. It's not the same fall winter we're going into a few years ago.
No.
Last year the market really slowed down because rates spiked into 8.5 or whatever the real rate was. Because there was like the fake, rates really were like almost 9, but
Sure.
no lender wanted to advertise that, and everybody was
Right.
losing money,
Yeah.
right? Like to try to keep them in the 8s. And so now we had just a little rate bump, right? After, kind of leading up to the election and kind of settled off. And it seems like the market, there's a lot of listings.
Yeah.
Like inventory is actually increasing for the first time in probably what? I don't even know.
Yeah.
When was the last time do you know the stats and the last time the market increased in inventory?
I don't, but
Like 15 years ago? Like,
I would guess. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not high if anybody's watching.
No,
It's like
no.
we're by no means high.
Right.
But we came off the bottom. And you and I were talking that it's like we need more inventory to actually sell more homes
Right.
because it got too low.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's right. It's still a seller's market. I mean, at least last breakdown that I looked at, it seems like it's still a seller's market, which is good. I remember the buyer's market days, and those were tough. But it's quality inventory and value right now, because I think a lot of people are just on the sidelines right now. They're waiting for something to happen and predicting something will happen, but they've been on those sidelines for quite a while. And
Yeah, are you hearing people that like I want to sell and they keep waiting? They
Right.
keep waiting.
right.
Yeah.
Because if they're downsizing, it's one thing, right? But even still with downsizing, if you've had this house paid off or you've had this low mortgage forever, and to buy something that's, incredibly expensive with a high interest rate, smaller house, and you're changing your life and having a higher payment, that's a tough pill to swallow. Right?
Yeah.
And people who need a bigger house, that's a really, really tough situation.
But it is the first time like buyers right now.
Yeah.
It's an exciting time for buyers
Yep.
because I looked at the stats in the Twin Cities. We got the same inventory now we had as the spring.
Yeah.
So historically, the market would come down right now.
Right.
So it's like, man, if you're a buyer, there's options.
Right.
Yeah, like
If,
and they're negotiating.
if I was making that move right now
Yeah.
to get a bigger house right now, I would be looking aggressively right now and figure out a way where I could hold on to my current house and sell that in the spring. And that's about as close as you can get to timing a market.
We just did that with a client where
Yeah.
we did like in the last 2 weeks, where they said, we're going to buy this house. Where, they upgraded to like a 750 in the St. Croix Valley,
Yeah.
selling a 500 traditional upgrade,
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
we would see around here. And then they were going to hold the property until the spring.
Yeah.
The agents talked to them about it, consulted with them, and they decided to put the house on the market. So they bought under contract and the other one non-contingent.
Yep.
And they were putting a smaller amount down. And then they're going to sell the 500. And then they said because they were believing, it's going to be a better market in the spring than
Right.
now. They put the house on the market and sold immediately.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So they said, hey, just test it out.
Yeah.
See how it goes.
Right.
Right. And they got the price and everything they wanted. It was like, oh,
Right.
wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So they might have left money on the table, but they would have spent a lot of money holding on to the house that was sitting vacant until the spring market, whenever that is, depending on.
Stress too.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like
absolutely.
the mortgage payment.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So what are you seeing for buyers right now? Because I feel like we're shifting into buyers actually have an opportunity.
Yeah.
Like especially these first and second buyers, seems like it's like finally you can get in the marketplace. Have you
Right.
been helping anybody get closing cost credits or anything
Yeah,
that you
well,
couldn't get a few years ago?
Yeah, we've felt like there's time to breathe, time to consider, right? Instead of making these very quick decisions. But yes, there is room for negotiating, and it's not all just the seller's terms now.
By time to breathe, are you meaning like you can look at a house?
Look at a
and
house.
You can think about it till the next day.
Maybe even come back and take a second look. Bring mom or dad. It's I think it's been helpful, and there'll be a lot more satisfied buyers. And there's maybe less regret from having to move so quick.
Yeah.
So yeah, and room for negotiating and doing some things. I mean, passing on an inspection is a tough pill to swallow, but there was a time where you just couldn't be competitive if you were doing an inspection, which is tricky. We always, when we list houses, we always talk to our sellers about doing a pre-inspection, which I think is such an easy win to have that inspection done up front. If there's issues, address those issues. Then you look like proactive seller and, market the house saying, hey, it's been pre-inspected. And so in a competitive market and we get, 3 or 4 offers, it seems like the majority of them are saying, okay, no inspection. And boy, that's a huge win for the seller. It's such a big deal. And it's good for the buyer. They're not going in blind. There's proof that, hey, somebody did an inspection. We read through it thoroughly. We feel comfortable doing it. But to just go in blind and waive an inspection, it's a scary proposition.
It is, right? Especially if there's some questionable things with the house. And sometimes you don't even know,
Right.
Like you can look at it and think, this is an amazing house. And all of a sudden, an inspection unpacks something. Have you ever seen
Yeah.
anything like that where the house looks good and
Oh,
then
yeah.
all of a sudden there's like a major, do you have an example of like what is like the stuff that's come up in inspections and you,
The sewer scope is the one that comes right to mind with older Minneapolis St. Paul homes.
Okay.
It's just the big unknown. And to have to dig up a yard or worse yet, sidewalk and street.
so they're putting like a camera?
Yep. So running a camera down, making sure it's structurally sound and intact. And you'd have no way of knowing, you flush your toilet, everything goes away, no problem, right? But if it's cracked and detached and all kinds of issues,
So this is common in a city home,
yep,
okay? The main sewer line.
Out to
from
the street,
house
yep.
To the street.
Yep.
Right?
The
A tree
homeowners-
grows through it or something?
Right.
Yeah.
And they're designed to absorb some tree roots and that sort of thing. So sometimes it's just having it cleaned out. But we've had, collapsed, really messed up sewer lines where it's a $20,000 fix. I mean, it's a
Ooh,
big
okay.
deal. And
Huge.
home inspector has no idea. Homeowners often have no idea. So it's one of those big mysteries.
So a non-experienced city agent, like if they're in the burbs, right? And they're used to dealing with newer homes.
Yep.
That's something they wouldn't even consider.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, wow. Okay. So do you recommend that for everybody in the city? Get a
Yep.
a sewer scope
As a buyer,
as a buyer?
That's not one thing that I would generally recommend a seller pre-inspect.
Yeah, because
It's a liability.
I can understand that, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, it's like let's just not go down that road if
Right.
we don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, certainly for
So then you
buyers.
got to prep the seller though. If there's a scope, be aware.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the inspection company we use all the time. It's a service that they provide. So
Okay.
so it's added fee, of course, but it's money well spent.
So that's a big pitfall to avoid.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a huge deal, especially as people are entertaining areas to buy a home right now.
Yeah.
Where maybe, they're originally looking at the burbs and they're saying for affordability, at least in the Twin Cities, there's a lot of more affordable homes,
Right.
like within Minneapolis or St. Paul.
Yeah. But
Right?
you
Or
know,
some of the surrounding older suburbs.
sure, like Stillwater.
Yeah.
You should
So Stillwater's same idea.
you should get a sewer scope. Yeah.
You should.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
there's older houses in Stillwater than, in St. Paul to some degree. So,
Well, yeah.
yeah. I mean, where we live, where a lot of wells or newer sewer lines or septic systems where, of course you get a septic inspection, but
Mhm.
but the sewer line is critical.
So what else are you seeing? What are buyers negotiating today that they couldn't negotiate a couple of years ago?
Everything, right? There's flexibility in closing dates and there's closing costs and how they use those. Not having to do appraisal gap coverage, that's a nice thing to to get rid of, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah.
That kind of seems like it's going by the wayside.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm sure it'll be back come spring.
Yeah, that's true.
But for now, yeah. But I think, and just some room to negotiate on price, and sometimes just getting a house for asking price is a good deal. I mean, when it goes to quickly to $20,000, $30,000 over when we're competing or more, right? That's tough. And then to say we'll do an appraisal gap coverage on top of that. I mean, it could be a lot of money out of pocket for a buyer.
Yeah, I think that is wonderful. This is so exciting for buyers.
Yeah.
Since we basically just work with buyers,
Right,
right?
right.
So it's such a relief. So, in how long do you think this buyer opportunity? So right now we're recording this in November. When do you think that starts? So if a buyer's considering buying this winter, is there like a roughly kind of like when the market starts to shift out of the winter market into the spring market? So you got a window.
Yeah, what I always say is the spring market starts when we have 2 nice weekends in a row. So when is that? Who knows? Right,
Yeah.
right. At some years it's May. Other years it's mid-March, April. It really depends on the winter we're going to have. But we're going into hibernation mode. Thanksgiving to New Year's. It's going to be slow. So there's great opportunities there. I think January 1st, it starts to shift incrementally. But, better to be a seller in January than in December. Better to be a seller in March than January. But I think it just incrementally gets better. But once that market gets going, once we have a couple nice weekends in a row and people are out and people are doing stuff, then it goes. And once it takes off, And there's plenty of time within there. But boy, if I was looking right now, I'd try and do so before January 1st.
I agree. Like this is the big sale time.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Right.
because the big sales are always when no one's buying.
Right,
That's when
right.
they got to put it on sale.
Yeah.
Right. Like so, I feel like right now January or
Yeah.
mid-January-ish kind of like.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems like this is the time.
And inventories, traditionally tighter this time of year because fewer people want to sell their house. But those people who are selling their house need to sell their house.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're excited to share that story and get people out. How about so the sellers side of things right now? If they can, do you advise waiting?
I would.
You
Yeah.
would. Why?
If they can, because they're going to get maximum attention come spring. And with maximum attention comes the highest probability of multiple offers and cleaner offers. And so I think it's in their best interest. Now, of course, that's asking them to spend more money, like we talked about before. Spend more money, holding onto the house, being worried about it if they're moving out. And if they have to sell before they buy, that puts them into a tough market, right? They're reaping the benefit, but they're also getting the disadvantage of being in maximum competition. So but if so many people have equity right now, so there's a lot of options with equity, between a bridge loan or recasting a loan after the sale, to avoid being non-contingent in any way possible. That's ideal.
Yeah. Well, and it seems to me that people could maybe jump kind of to the next price range right now because there's some price adjustments.
Yep.
You might be able to get, the ability to look up a little bit
Right.
above you versus there was like this game for a while where it's like if you're buying at 400, you got to look at 375.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
and now it's actually, hey, if you're buying at 400, maybe look at 450.
Yep.
Right. Like,
Right.
Yeah. And so that's shifting. So people because it seems like so many buyers have been sitting on the sidelines,
Yeah.
just waiting years and years.
Right.
Like now it's like you can kind of look at things a little different than maybe you did in the past.
Yeah.
Is there
I think
what
so.
are you really good at? What are you particularly good at in terms of like buyers? What do you think why do so many buyers work with you specifically?
Well, I think I'm patient. I tell people I'm on board to look at lots of houses. We might see the perfect house day one, but without the experience of seeing a lot of properties and what you get for your money, you're not necessarily going to know that. It doesn't matter that I think it's a perfect house. You have to think it's a perfect house. So I'm on board for showing a lot of houses, being there to support them. I want them to be the expert on the value of a house in Lake St. Croix Beach, not me, right? So it's got to occur to them, yes, this is a good value. This is the one worth pursuing and really going after. So I know that takes time, and I'm there for that and available for that. And I think we just advise everybody the same way we would advise ourselves or our family. We're advocates for them. We're working on their behalf, and we're giving them, the same information I'd give my sister if she was buying a house here, consistently.
Is there a part that you just love doing in real estate? Like, is there something that you do? You're like, this is like my favorite part.
I do like working with buyers and being out there and looking at houses and driving around with them and getting to know them. I always say if we had to move somewhere, we'd move to Phoenix. I could become a buyer's agent with some big group, right? Fine. I like that aspect.
Do you just like looking at houses, or do you like the relationships?
The relationships and
Okay.
the kind of problem solving aspect. And
Okay.
I like it when it's under contract and the rush, and that aspect of it. I do like that. I like, keeping track of sales and all that kind of stuff and setting goals, that sort of thing. But day to day, I like working with buyers and being a buyer's agent.
Cool. That's fun. Yeah, the relationship side is so fulfilling.
Yeah.
Especially in the first time home buyers. You had mentioned
Yeah.
that you help renters transition.
Well, so we have a handful of rental properties, and that we started buying about 10 years ago. And I heard somebody, I was probably on a podcast at some point, say, when they're a landlord and they're a realtor, they always tell their tenants, hey, if you ever want to move, you want to buy a house, you can break your lease at any point if you hire me to be your realtor. Of course, you don't have to use me as your realtor, but if you want to, you can move out at any time. And so we've had a lot of success with our rentals and people who have been a renter for, a year or less, or a number of years, who come to us and say, hey, I think it's time to buy a house. Would you help us buy a house? So It's been great. I mean, I think we had 4 or 5 tenants last year buy houses. And in a slow year, that's huge.
How many
huge.
rentals do you have? That you got 4 or 5 tenants?
We have 8. So 6 townhomes in Woodbury that are not exciting, but they're fine. They're nice.
Yeah.
They do okay, cash flow wise. But when you factor in, the commission on top of that, it's huge. And the deal we just did,
That's always such a fear of the buyer, that if they have to exit the buying, and then go into the rental, they get locked.
Yep.
Right. So then you give them the chance to open that door again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the deal we just did, I think they were only about 8 months into their lease. They were talking about, well, are we going to re-sign? What should we do? What's our time frame? That sort of thing. And I said, well, if you want to start looking, we can look now. I think there's good opportunities, which there were. And, but no pressure. And we'll just look. And if your lease comes up, we'll sign another year-long lease. Who cares if you buy, if you buy in that period, you just break it at any point. So now I'm trying to find a new renter in December, which isn't great, but who cares? Because, the commission offsets.
And the inventory is so low on the
Right.
rental side.
Yeah,
Right? Like
yeah.
it'll probably fill.
And we just manage our rental properties on our own. I fill it and do the financial stuff. I find the tenants, and my wife does all the work. She's the handy person. So
Well, you're in the industry. So do you have very many investors that you work with?
a handful.
You do? Okay.
Yeah, not a lot, but
Okay.
but we've got a handful.
Yeah,
Investors are a tricky bunch.
they are.
Yeah, and they're not loyal, and they'd rather work around you, if they
Yeah.
could.
That's just the business.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, right, right.
So I was reading the stat that like 1 in 3 buyers is actively a renter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
not every renter is a first time home buyer either. Right.
Right,
Because
right.
we're seeing around here.
Oh, yeah.
Holy smokes. People are paying $3,500, $4,000 a month for single family rentals right now.
Right.
And they're all over the place.
Yeah,
Yeah. So they can easily transition from their renting to buying.
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the group I think it's like this first time home buyer group and rental group is going to move the needle.
Yeah,
As
it's
we're
been
going
great.
for rents are so high. I mean, it's like what, $2,500 for a townhouse now.
Yeah. Well, and and saying most of my leads are past clients and referrals. I'd say the newer buyers that I'm working with tend to be our tenants, which aren't exactly cold leads, but somewhere in between. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a great relationship. That's for sure. So, for you, are you trying to build your real estate portfolio?
No, we're pretty good with 8 right now.
Are you?
We got our hands full with all those turnovers last year. My property manager, my wife, was not happy with me, but I said, well, the good news is we're getting commissions on these. But
Yeah.
she doesn't always feel that. She's cleaning them up and turning them over and
Plus, the
getting them
numbers
ready.
are kind of tough right now.
Numbers.
With where rates are at and prices.
Yeah.
Rents just don't look. The numbers don't work
No.
from what I see.
No,
for most
no.
properties,
But,
it just doesn't work.
It's right. It's tough, and it's not easy having to put 25% down. Of course, that's a lot of money for these properties, but when you factor in, even if you were just breaking even, you're building equity. Somebody's paying that for you, and then as a realtor, I think it makes a lot of sense to be mindful of when you're showing it to a potential tenant, thinking, is this person going to be a buyer in a few years? We've got somebody coming up to look at our property this afternoon, and they're moving up from Rochester, and they've got medical, jobs, and think, well, these would be ideal people, if they like it, and if they're, it all makes sense. But
Yeah, as a realtor, I think most realtors, if you're a realtor and you don't own investment properties, you need to take the time to educate yourself on the tax benefits.
Absolutely.
As a real estate professional, because if your Schedule E loses money,
Right.
right, where you list all your rental properties, it can offset your
Right.
real estate income.
yep,
That does not work, a little secret, if you're not as a real estate professional.
Right.
So there is tax advantages.
Major.
Like I think that most agents shouldn't rush in if you're just building your business, save your money, right? Keep reserves.
Right.
Because this is a very cyclical market. But as you can build up, if you can do that, it's genius.
Right.
Cost segregation, bonus depreciation. There's things where I know personally agents that will go out and buy a rental property a year, cost segregate, which is a bonus depreciation. If
Yep.
You understand what that, right? And they're offsetting most of their real estate income.
yeah,
It's unbelievable.
It's huge.
So if you're an agent, take the time to slow down and understand why really savvy agents buy rental properties, because it's more than meets the eye. Because
Yep.
you could have a rental property break even, but as a realtor, it's actually a huge financial benefit.
absolutely. I waited too long. You hear almost day one, if you're a realtor, you should be buying investment
Well, you
properties.
get the best deals.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
put right on your lap, right?
And it took me way too long. And as soon as we did it, it was scary. And I don't like taking care of my house. I don't want to take care of another house. So, so it was a big hurdle. But once we decided to do it, then, we were at a position where we could add and add and add, which was great. And I wish I'd started earlier. There's probably, 5 years from now, I'll probably say I should have kept buying, even though we took a breather, but it's just
generational wealth is what you're going to be able to create for your family, right?
Right.
Which is amazing.
And they're fairly liquid if we do get into some real problems or,
Liquid adds in, you have enough equity, you can just sell it.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So if we're in a pinch, we could unload one. So
Yeah, I think that's amazing. What do you think is going to happen here? So we're coming into 2025. Do you have kind of a prediction of, or kind of gut feeling?
Yeah, I have a gut feeling that it's going to be a very busy, very, very transaction heavy year, and I like we've talked about. I just think there's a lot of pent up demand. There's a lot of people on the sidelines who've been waiting to do something, that need to do something, but have put it off. And I think we're gonna be very, very busy in 2025. We were, kind of saying, as things were slow this year, we're saying survive to 25. We just got to stay alive
to 25.
Yeah, we just got to get to the end of the year, and it's been a great year. But I think it's going to be a huge year for real estate, for realtors.
I agree. Like the mortgage industry just completely hemorrhaged our entire industry.
Yeah.
We went from 280,000 unique NMLS licensed loan officers to the stat that I saw was 79,000 this year, which is so the industry can stay the same, and we, as long as we work, we get to grow.
Right.
Just for we just have more opportunities now.
Right. And
I think realtors, that's just starting to happen, right?
Yeah.
Where you got all these agents, they may be holding their license, but they're inactive now.
Right.
So if the market even increases for you guys, 10% in sales,
yeah.
you could grow by 30,
Right. Yeah.
which is so exciting. The consumer actually is going to have some options.
Yeah. Well, and you guys deserve a good year. It's been
It's been a little rough for a couple of years. It was like we had some quarters there where it was like, do people, take out mortgages anymore?
Well, that's a huge drop in lenders. I mean, that's massive.
70% decrease in total units originated for a mortgage.
Right.
So we went down. Our industry went down 70%. It's as bad as it gets. Right.
Yeah.
It was just kicking the nuts, quite frankly.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And real estate though went down 40% in sales, but values came up. Stayed up, which is pretty cool. So I'm on board with you. I think it's going to be a really good year.
Yeah.
Right. I think that the next couple of months is no indication of what the overall year is going to look like.
Right.
It's just
right.
winter in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden it could go bonkers. But what I don't feel like, and you tell me if I don't know if values are going to jump. It feels like there's just going to be more homes sold.
Yeah. I think with that volume could create an increase in prices.
Yeah.
Again, is the competitive aspect of it that pushes the price. It seems like every spring sets the price for the rest of the year because, looking at the last 6 months, here's your value. Well, now you got, 30 showings and 10 offers. Well, now your value's here.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's sold for, as long as it appraises. And then that sets the prices going forward for the rest of the year. And so I don't know that it'll be, who knows? I would guess it would be an increase because of the competition, but we'll see.
Who's going to win, buyers or sellers then in 2025? Or could they both win?
Well, yeah, I mean, as long as you're in a house, you're winning, I think. So I think sellers, I think it's going to be a seller's market again. It's going to be beneficial for them, but most sellers turn into buyers. So, it's I think it'll be good for everybody, especially if interest rates get a little more palatable.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to be 2020, 2021 though, right?
No. No.
Quite
And
that level.
That's fine.
100K over, on a listing.
Right.
Yeah, just better than what it has been for the last few years.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I'm optimistic. But you probably always think it's going to be a great year coming up, and I feel the same way.
I didn't think a couple of years ago, let's be clear
No.
about that. I knew we were going into darkness.
Yeah.
You know, like when we were coming in fall 2022 into
I suppose,
2023, we were like, we're going into a hurricane, and this isn't
Yeah.
going to be fun.
Yeah.
Right?
That-
Like we
right.
had battened down the hatches.
Right.
But it only lasted like 3-4 months. Just so it wasn't forever.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, man, I really appreciate you, sharing your knowledge and time
course.
here
Yeah.
with us today. Hopefully, all of our listeners found a lot of value in it, and I have a lot of respect for your business. You're an absolute real estate machine, and you're on top of the game. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it.